Well, you know what time it is. It's one of my favorite times of the year. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha. That sounded better in my head. Hello everyone, Brittany here, also known as Samoki Dude, and if you didn't gather, Halloween is one of my favorite times of the year. I love spooky stuff. I like horror movies. I like horror novels. I like horror comics. I like horror things. I like spooky stuff. And I love Halloween, and generally during the Halloween season, I tend to have my, what I like to call Spoopathon, which is basically where I just pig out on horror the entire month, and yeah, it's very enjoyable. I've done it last 2 years. It's been a lot of fun. And now I'm back for 2023, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I'm going to be basically talking about all of the books and comics that I hope to read during this time of the year. I will not guarantee that I will read all of these books / comics, but I'm definitely going to read as many of them as I can. So yeah, we're going to be talking about books I hope to cover here. So yeah, let's get into it then. First book I have here to play today is The Boatman's Daughter from Andy Davidson. This is a book I picked up because I really liked the cover, and I was really interested in like the title, the cover. I really liked how the book looks. It's very similar to, I think it is made by the same people who did the Southern Reach trilogy. I mean, if you could tell, the back design here is very similar to that trilogy, and I mean, there's a lot of people who are quoted here, such as Christopher Buehlman and Philip Fracassi, who I'm acquainted with, and Michael Coriata, who I actually reviewed his book The Prophet earlier this year, and that book was excellent. So yeah, no, the Boatman's Daughter, I really hope to get to this. If I don't get to it, maybe I'll read it next year, but I do want to read this at some point soon because, man, this title looks really cool, and I'm really excited to get to that. Next book is more of a reread. This is one I read a few years ago, and I really want to read again, and that is The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle. I mean, Victor LaValle is, in my opinion, one of the best horror writers working right now. He's definitely one who I think is not mentioned as much on here, on YouTube, as he should be, and I hope to fix that, because I'm definitely going to be rereading Ballad of Black Tom, and I do hope to cover him on here, cover this book anyway, and cover other Victor LaValle books. I've read 3 of his novels so far. All of them have been very good. I am definitely looking forward to talking about Ballad of Black Tom, and I definitely want to reread it this year, because man, I remember really enjoying this book. It's a retelling of Lovecraft's most heinously racist story, and that is the horror at Red Hook. Victor LaValle basically reinterprets that story from the perspective of a black man, the titular Black Tom. It's a really good book from what I remember, but I'm going to read it again, see how it holds up, and I'm going to do a proper review on here. Hopefully that'll come out soon, because, man, this is really good, and I do recommend this. Well, it's a novella, really, but you know, it's the same thing. It's good stuff, and I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this book, and I think people should go read it. So, you know, just put that down. Next book I got here is one that I actually picked this up because one of my friends, well, you know him, you love him, Jason. This is one of Jason's big recommendations, and that book is Tender the Flesh. I'm sure Jason will just love that I brought this book up, because Tender is the Flesh is a very popular book, it seems. I've seen it covered a few times on YouTube. Jason was just fawning over this book. I mean, I think he would marry this damn thing if he could. But I was really interested in the idea of this novel. I thought it was really interesting. Very much could be really disturbing. I think this could be a really good book, and I really am excited to get to it, to read it. It definitely is really messed up from the sounds of it. It's about cannibalism, so you know it's probably not going to be very lighthearted entertainment. But you know, it's what we got here. Next book I have here is one that I've been wanting to get to for a while. I just haven't gotten around to, and that is The Ritual by Adam Neville. I actually saw the film version of this a few years ago, and I thought it was a really, really good movie. It was a very strong film, very atmospheric. Has a lot of stuff I enjoy with horror movies. You know, the atmosphere, the acting was really good, and the effects were also very, very good, even though it, I know a lot of people look down on CG, but the CG in that movie was actually pretty good. So, yeah, it's definitely one I've wanted to read for a while to see how it compares to the movie. I have heard there are some differences, so I'm definitely going to... I definitely want to read this. I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but I wouldn't say it's one of my high priority reads, but it's definitely one I do want to read. And I'm very much looking forward to The Ritual with Adam Neville. I've heard he's a very good writer. I know Jason did a read-along of his book, The Vessel, I think is what it was called. He wasn't really that fond of that book, but, that's never deterred me before. So, but it's not The Vessel I'm reading, it's The Ritual. And I did like The Ritual film, so I'm curious to see how the book would go. So, that's that. This is one I've been wanting to read for a few years now. I just kept not getting around to it. Really hoping to get to it this year, and that is Mongrels from Stephen Graham Jones. Now, I've only read one of his books, and that is The Only Good Indians. And I really enjoyed that book. I thought it was a very strong novel. It was almost a 5-star, but it didn't quite make it. But I've heard Mongrels is really good, and it also deals with one of my favorite subjects, and that is one of my favorite monsters anyway, and that's werewolves. Actually is my favorite monster, which is why I want to read this book so bad. I've heard it's basically his take on the werewolf mythos, and I'm definitely wanting to read it because, man, it's just, I want to read it. I've heard it's really good, and I just hope it's as good as it says. So this one's definitely on the high priority I want to read before the month is over, because I think Stephen Graham Jones is a very good writer. I mean, The Only Good Indians was a very good book, I thought. But yeah, Mongrels. I'm definitely looking forward to Mongrels. Another high priority read is actually from someone who I know, who is a bit of a friend of the channel, and that is Matt's from the writers room on Jason's Discord server. I got The Beast of St. Ender from him about 6 months ago, because again, I saw Jason doing a review. I'm like, well, I like this cover. Werewolves? Apparently there aren't any fucking werewolves in this, which is disappointing. Matt's, what the hell? You got me to buy this fucking book and there's no fucking werewolves? I mean, look at that. It looks like a werewolf. 0 out of 5 stars, I'm just saying. But I'm going to read it. Jokes aside, I'm going to read it, and I'm definitely wanting to see how it holds up. I hope it's good. It definitely looks fun. It's probably going to be one of the first books I read, because I promised Matt that I would read this during my this year's Spoopathon, and I'm intending on keeping that. But yeah, this book does look really cool. It's a historical horror mystery, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading this, even though it may not be a werewolf, which is very disappointing to me. But yeah. No, I'm gonna read this, and I'm gonna give a review, and hopefully I enjoy it, because it's always awkward when you read stuff from people that you know. But, I hope Matt appreciates me reading this anyway, so, yeah. Let's put that down then. Next book is one that you've probably seen before, and that is And the Ass Saw the Angel from Nick Cave. I already kind of mentioned this before. Now, some of you might think, wait, Britton, didn't you mention that in your summer video? Yes, I did. I was going to read this. I just didn't get around to it. And I also had a buddy who said, hey, this actually works better in Spooktober time, so just read it then. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Hopefully it works out. Yeah, that's really all I got to say about this. Nick Cave, he does have some great music. I enjoy his scores of films like The Proposition and the adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's The Road. The score in that he did with Warren Ellis, not the comic book writer. Great. I thought it was really good stuff. I'm definitely looking forward to reading this. I've heard it's very McCarthy-esque, which, you know, shut up and take my money. I do intend on reading this before the year is over. I'll put it that way. If I don't read it this next month, I am going to read it before the year is over. You can hold me to that. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, and that's really all I gotta say. Next one I got is What Moves the Dead from T. Kingfisher, and what a hardcover. I thought you liked the paperbacks. I do. But this was the only one. This was the only copy I could find, and yeah, that's really all I gotta say. It's a retelling of one of my favorite Poe stories, The Fall of the House of Usher, which is a really weird kind of atmospheric story. And I mean, you know, I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe fan. I do love his work. It's very, very strange and macabre. He's often replicated. Or he's often imitated, but never replicated. But I'm always intrigued by, if you couldn't tell from my Ballad of Black Tom discussion, I'm always intrigued by retellings, because it's always neat to see new takes on a familiar story. And I'm curious to see how this book goes. It's definitely it's going to be a new take on this story, or if not, then, well, I don't know what to say. Hopefully it'll be good, though. I'm definitely wanting to read this before the month of October is up. So, yeah, should be fun. Oh, God. Yeah. Next book I have is my next China Mieville read after the disappointment that was Embassy Town, and that is This Census Taker, which is a novella. I'm intrigued by the concept of this story, and I mean, after the two duds that I read from Mieville, I read Iron Council, didn't love that. Read Embassy Town, I didn't like that much either. I'm hoping I can rebound with Mieville with This Census Taker, because you know, Mieville, when he puts his mind to it, the guy is a freaking amazing writer when he puts his mind to the task. And I've heard This Census Taker is a very good one, and I'm definitely wanting to read this during the October spooky season, because I've heard this is kind of it's kind of a horror story. But yeah, I'm gonna be reading This Census Taker hopefully during this next upcoming month. Should be fun. So yeah, I'm just gonna put that down now. Last actual novel I have on here is one I've been looking forward to read for a while, and it's also the thickest boy on this list, and that is Christopher Buehlman's Between Two Fires. This is my next Christopher Buehlman read. I read Those Across the River last year, and aside from a lackluster ending, I really enjoyed that book. I might actually review that book on here. I also read The Black Tongue Thief, which was okay. I didn't really love it. But Between Two Fires, I've heard a lot of really good things about Between Two Fires. I mean, I know Jason covered it. I know a bunch of other people have covered Between Two Fires. I've heard it be compared to The Road, which that's interesting to me. And I'm also intrigued by the idea of a medieval horror story, because I mean, the medieval setting is often used in fantasy, but I haven't seen a lot of it in horror. Because the medieval times, I can tell you right now, is probably not a fun place to live in, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff you could pull from that would terrify modern readers. So I'm hoping that this book will be good, because I really would like it to be a good story, because I don't know. I'm just hoping it's good, and it's not really much else to say. But Between Two Fires is, I've heard, is probably his best work so far. So I'm curious to see what I'll make of this book. And I'm hoping the ending is a lot better than Those Across the River, because, man, Those Across the River had kind of a letdown of an ending. It is a thick boy, though, so, you know, this should be fun. But I'm looking forward to reading this. I'm definitely going to be reading it, and yeah, so there you go. Well, that's the end of the book section of the novels that I'll be reading during this. Now I'm going to be talking about the comics that I'm going to be reading during this, and this is going to be a much shorter list, so keep in mind. First one I have here is one I've been meaning to read for the past couple years, and it's just one I kept not getting around to, and I finally, hopefully, am. And that is Manor Black from Cullen Bunn and Tyler Crook, the guys who made Harrow County, which was an excellent horror comic that I started last year. And or it was either last year or 2 years ago, but I don't remember. But that was a fantastic book. I mean, Cullen Bunn's kind of up and down. Like, he's done some really atrocious comics, and then he does Harrow County, which is freaking baller. He's teaming up with Tyler Crook, who he did Harrow County with. So I'm hoping that this book will be up to that caliber. I'm definitely looking forward to reading this book to see how it holds up to Harrow County. And I mean, if nothing else, the art's going to look nice because Tyler Crook has just a beautiful style. I mean, beautiful watercolor style. I know he doesn't do all the colors, but it definitely helps. And I'm definitely looking forward to reading this, and I want to see how it goes. Next one is sort of a bit of a cult classic in comics, and one I've been wanting to read for a while, and that is The Goon from Eric Powell. I've read a few of his stuff. I read Hillbilly from him. I read the first volume of that. Loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I also read his comic Ed Gein biography. Did You Hear What Eddie Gein Done? Which was pretty good. But I have heard a lot about The Goon. I definitely would love to read it at some point. I want to see how it goes. And I got the omnibus version because, I don't want to really go through. I don't want to go through the tedious task of getting all the volumes. That's preposterous. So yeah, I just decided to get the omnibus. But I like Eric Powell's style, so I'm definitely looking forward to see how The Goon ends up faring among the comics that I've read, and it definitely looks like a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'm hoping that it goes well. I really don't want this to suck. Basically, I've heard it's kind of like its other version. It's kind of like Hellboy, if you've ever read Hellboy. So I don't know. Now I would recommend Hillbilly from Eric Powell, which is basically like Southern Gothic Conan / Hellboy. Fantastic series. I mean, go check that out. It's a great series. Next book I have here is actually a reread I've been wanting to do for a while, and that is Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino's Gideon Falls, which is basically their take on Twin Peaks. Now, I did read the first 3 volumes of this series, or the first 2. I don't exactly remember. But I remember enjoying them. I remember really enjoying the mystery and wanting to see what happens next. And Jeff Lemire is very good at that. And Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino are one of those duos, kind of like Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, who just work really well together. And the art in here is just exquisite. I gotta show. Like, look at that. Look at this. Great stuff. Definitely going to be rereading it. I hope to complete it. I really, really want to complete it this year. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I've waited this long, so I definitely want to get around to finishing Gideon Falls. Though I have heard from Carlos that it doesn't wrap up very well, so I'm not looking forward to that. But I am looking forward to reading this and see where it goes. And, that's kind of all I got to say about that. Last comic I got here is another Jeff Lemire work, and that is Little Monsters from him and Dustin Nguyen, who did Descender. I have not read all of Descender, but I liked what I read of Descender. I do have some issues with it, mainly the pacing, and it's also it's definitely a very liberal... Not liberal, but it definitely feels like it definitely wears its inspiration from Pluto on its sleeve. But it's still a pretty good series. But Little Monsters sounds really interesting. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic vampire story. Well, that sounds really cool. I want to read about that. And Dustin Nguyen, man, his art, like, if you've read Descender, you know, his art is amazing. I love the watercolor style of his. I don't know what it'll look like in this, but, man, I can't wait to get to this, because, man, like, I really want this to be good, and generally, Jeff Lemire is pretty good. He has a very good eye for artists, I'll put it that way. And yeah, I want to see how Little Monsters goes. I heard it wrapped up recently, which good, so I can just go to the comic book store and get all the volumes, and I can just read it. But yeah, no, that's about it. I mean, you know, it's just I'm looking forward to reading this and reading all of the other comics that I got and the books I have here. Yeah, that's basically all I have for my October Spoopathon, as I like to call it, where I'm just going to be reading a bunch of horror stuff throughout the month. I'm going to be covering horror on this channel. Basically, all of the horror stuff that I enjoy. I have some really fun stuff that I'm looking forward to. I'm going to be doing a conversation with Colin about it. I also I'm hoping to do a conversation with John from Talking Story, because we did a podcast together, and I really enjoyed that conversation, and I want to have another one with him, because he's a really cool dude. Go check out his channel, Talking Story. He covers a lot of the same stuff that I do. I also like that I don't want to sound really vain here, but he covers a lot like me. He covers a lot of different genres, which I like. You know, it keeps the channel fresh, and that's why I like reviewing a bunch of other genres that isn't horror, or I don't want to do just one genre, basically. But aside from that, there's not really much else that I'm going to cover on this channel. I do hope to cover Over the Garden Wall, because, man, I love that series so much. It's a fantastic series, and, yeah, I'm planning on doing that. But yeah, I'm definitely looking for, I might have Jason on. We're going to talk about some stuff. I'm definitely wanting to do that this month. But yeah, that's kind of all I got. So yeah, check me out on Twitter. That's pretty much all I got for today. Check me out on Twitter. Go find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, check me out on Goodreads and Letterboxd, which have reviews for me that are probably more coherent than the ones you just heard right now. And you can also find me on Discord. Come talk to me on there. I would love to hear from you guys. Yeah, that's basically all I got for now. See you guys later. Bye-bye.